Oh, yeah. Y'all are sweet as two below honey. No doubt about that. Hello, everybody. How are you doing? Welcome to a new cycle, as they would say. And I hope you had a good one. Yeah. I called in snow and boy, we got it. And, that's a cool thing. So, welcome. Let me just speak favor all of us. Over all of us, as he gets that correctly. And yeah, I'm hitting buttons at the same time. Hey, y'all know how it is. If you drive your bus, you know what you got to do. So, again, I just speak favor over everybody. Thank you for tuning in, everyone. How about Friday's show? Was that special? I gotta tell you what, that was just special. So hey, Kaz, that's what I'm talking about. Jules, it was so good to see you, my dear, and David Castle, and who else was on there? Guy, got to get you on again with you and Paul. Martin and Heidi, it'd be nice to have on. How are y'all doing over there? Deborah Sloan, much love to you. Robin, what else is Thomas? Good to see you. Nina, how you doing, darling? Russell, Chloe, much love to you, darling. Russell, what's up? I have the Maelstrom. What's going on? Hey, John Price. Ariel, good to see you. Hello, Jules. I tell you what, that was just fantastic. There was just that's all you can say. It was, you should download it if you got it. I mean, because that's one you really want to keep. That I thought was a phenomenal representation of a group of consciousness that's we call either spirits or soul. We believe that that's what we have. Other than that, we could be just speaking, I don't know, meat suits. I don't know. Don't think so, but yeah. Then again, we could be these incredible beings that we perform this miracle by melding ourselves to this physical matter. And it's a ride, baby, all the way from the beginning. There's never an end. It's just a cycle. We're in a new cycle. I'm looking forward to this cycle. It's got, happy feet tattooed all over it. And if you don't have happy feet, well, you should learn to get some. So anyway, hey, Jenny, what's up? Scotty boy, Emperor Rex, good to see you, beloved Abstract. How are you doing? Ruby, good to see you as well. Thank you for tuning in. Go, good to see you. Ruth Ann, hello. Tessa, good to see you. Rufus, got to say hello to you and Tony. Gaia, what is the donkey's name? Because that donkey is just as cute as can be. No doubt about it. It's just cool. Hello, Jackie. Good to see you. Gamal, good to see you. Let's see what else. All right. So, being of service to others, man, I'll tell you what, if you've been practicing that last year, you got a huge harvest. Actually, we always have a harvest. And let me just say something as well. Sometimes when people do you wrong, and that could be whatever you want to fill in the blank to be, you have to understand that there is a cycle, there is a thing called justice. Now, you cannot feel bad for the individual that's reaped the whirlwind, the negative karma. It comes in all of our lives. I mean, if you purposely go out to hurt others, why would you do that? But people do it, unfortunately, with regularity. And you cannot, let me word this correctly. When karma comes forth, what they have sowed into their life, you have to allow justice to have its course. Because if you try to intervene and say, listen, I forgive you, and there's nothing wrong with that. but you can't become a surrogate for them. And a lot of people do. And they wonder, well, where's the justice? Well, maybe examine things in your life and realize, step back and allow justice to have its due course. Love you, Jenny. That's all I got to say about that. Hello, July. What are you doing? Good to see you, new. Hello. So, you remember a couple of years ago, and the first YouTube channel I started is my other channel over there. I started that in 2012. So 10 years on this channel. We're into our 7th, going on our 8th, but I believe it is the 7th. So, so much of this is all coalescing, and I want to put it out correctly. We look at what we are right now, and for the most part, we say that this is reality. We furthermore say that this is the year of the first month of January, the 3rd day of the year 2022. That's bullshit. Yeah, we like the idea of partying, so we make up bullshit holidays. And the first one is that, well, we made one rotation around the sun. True. But if we think that this is really 2022, well, get ready, folks, because it gets weird. So I told you all this week we would be looking at, and it's going to have a lot of different courses, and there's a lot of good stuff on YouTube. I went and looked at a number of videos, and they got it. They know. Anyway, the Tartarians. This book is a remarkable book. I can't find it in PDF form. If I do, I'll let you know. Something is up, folks. Back when I was a self-confessing Christian, you remember the story of Moses, the Bible, the Exodus. Charleston Heston played in the movie, played Moses, and that was so far detached from reality, but yet it had little nuggets in there. The point is, throughout time, there have been those who have been removed from history. Their name, their image, any remembrance of them, and that is, I guess you could really call the second death. Because as long as you're remembered by somebody, by someone, they say that we still have a connection here. So the Tartarians. Here is a case in point of a race. They were a super race. Many of you are well versed in the subject, and we're coming into a time where, as hard as they tried to remove their memories, and they did, and you can then deduce, extrapolate, something happened to us. Very recent. It looks like there were 2 timelines. And through whether it was a merging, whether it was a separating, we're going to get into a lot of this. Something happened. Now, I will find these pictures. I have some of them, but I want to show you. So look at the size of these books. Then look at the gun. That is it's a gun. Looks like a big ass rifle. Then we have the samurai sword. Then we have in the young lady in the museum, I believe that this is in, not sure if it's London, but giant typewriters, stairs that humans can't even begin to climb, axes, a suit of armors of a people that were 8 to 12 feet. They ruled most of the world. Hello, Teresa. Good to see you, my dear. Now, in this side of the book, and I'm going to try to get it so where I can see what I am. There we go. Look at the size of these doors. Notice the serpent on this one. So these are not just architectural additions. It's weird. And it's kind of scrambles the noodle a little bit, because how did a race of human beings, they may not have been sapiens, how was their memory deleted from the modern pages of history? But yet they didn't do a very good job. And that's the problem. Human beings are flawed. We're inherently flawed. I wish it wasn't. Sapiens are probably the most flawed of all the genesis of Homo man. As I have said, and I'll continue to say it, no savior, no God is ever going to save Homo sapiens, humanity. It would be the cruelest thing ever for such a deity of an intelligence to do that. For all of you who have raised children, would you have stepped in every time your child screwed up and said, oh, no, 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 it's okay. I have a savior that's going to come and it's going to make it all better? No, that's bullshit. Until mankind can accept responsibility, self-responsibility as a species, we're screwed. And I am as positive and upbeat as about as everybody, but I am talking as a species, the Homo sapiens sapien genesis of man. Again, it would be the cruelest thing for someone to come in and say, hey, listen, I'm going to save you out of all of your crap. Well, you'll never learn anything. Apparently, we're incapable of learning, particularly us, modern man. We are so ignorant that we're not progressing. We have regressed. Why do I say that? Well, this little jewel, we're going to really get into this. We're going to get into the expositions, the world fairs from 1850 to approximately 1920. Something was up. These expositions, they don't make any sense. The scale, the grandeur, the size, the technology, the grandeur of the architecture that was used in building, particularly the crystal palaces around the world. And then how most of them all met the same fate, fire. It's remarkable to see that there's very few of these buildings that were built that when you read the record, for instance, in the St. Louis, the 1904 World's Fair or Exposition, the same thing with the 1881 Exposition of Chicago. Weird stuff. In Chicago, I believe it was nearly 800 acres. The St. Louis Exposition was 1,200 acres, and it had lakes. It had electric boats. It had electric buses. It had the use of they were using Tesla's technology. The scale of these buildings were able to hold 300 to 500,000 people. They were gargantuan. In fact, I hope that my update on Zoom will work properly. This is the Crystal Palace in London. The scale of these buildings, well, as he was saying, I hope that is showing. I've no idea, but, and I can see that I froze. Well, this is just hilarious. Not. Okay, we'll stop that. Because I guess it isn't going, I'll tell you what, I'm going to have to get a different platform. Oh, but I do see it showing anyway. Okay, good. All right, so I'm seeing myself ahead and I'm seeing myself behind at the same time. So that's kind of cool. All right, so now here's the weird part. When you look at the time that they said that it took for these buildings to be built, all of these buildings were built in less than 2 years, about 20 months. Problem with that is that it's physically impossible for that to have been done. Now, they use the excuse that some of these buildings were just merely temporary structures. Well, that doesn't hold out because they were masters of metal. Some of the architectural iron pieces that were used were super advanced in the way that they not only took the weight of what particular part of the building they were in, but how they dispersed the weight into the rest of the building. Modern contractors have been brought in to ask for them to do a workup as if these are the type of building contractors that build skyscrapers, to look at these crystal palaces, look at the exposition of machinery in Chicago, the same one in Pennsylvania, the Parthenon in Nashville. I have been in that. I have been inside that building. That is an actual replica down to the square meter. It's quite fascinating when they were allowed people inside. If you get the chance to do the tour, do it. But I hung out there quite a bit. We shot a lot of video there back in the day. The point is, again, when these contractors submitted their bids as to the best time frame that they could construct by the crude drawings, it's interesting, very few blueprints exist. It's as if someone deliberately erased them, but every contractor looking at particularly these crystal palaces said 15 years. With the scale, the detailed of ornamentation, the craftsmanship on the inside. And it wasn't just these buildings, these crystal palaces, and each one of the cities in Chicago. Not only did they built hotels. They built hotels that could house 3,000 people. Folks, this is on a scale of Las Vegas. I mean, it's like being at the MGM Grand. 3,000 people. And to think that after all these expositions ended, they tore them all down. That's just weird. It's just really weird. Case in point, the Chicago fire of 1850 burned down the city of Chicago. They didn't have any buildings. I mean, it was a Mayfield, Kentucky situation just with fire, kind of what we saw up here in Boulder last week. a wildfire that was, 105 sustained a mile an hour winds. But what was interesting was that in 1880, when they started building for the Chicago Exposition, these buildings were huge. And then to think they had 2 hotels, they had infrastructure that the city was in desperate need of. The interesting thing was, again, it's the same one in Pennsylvania. Every one of these had a Tesla coil tower. So it was very evident. I read one in, where was it? I believe it was Philadelphia. They had the largest amount of incandescent light bulbs. They had like 11,000. Now, what was really strange about this is that they can't find the manufacturer that manufactured these light bulbs. But more interesting was that electricity, although becoming very much more into the Industrial Revolution, was in still cases, for instance, natural gas was the preferred lighting method for most homes in the cities. My whole point to this, and to the author's point as well, was that they tore them down. No one recovered any of the technology. They burned what they could. And as in St. Louis, with the St. Louis Art Museum, you can go right there to Forest Park, and the art museum is actually built upon, they say, the old Ferris wheel, but as well upon the old, and I want to make sure, I think this one was the building of mechanical technology. But again, I lived in St. Louis. There's no remnant, there's no evidence of any of these lakes. There was a huge lake, and then it had ossuaries to the side, little lagoons, where you would go into these different buildings to see the different culture. Strange. Many suspect that what we were really seeing were buildings in many cases that probably existed, but we just are never told that they existed. That the Tartaria owned North America. We don't see that in the history books. We have evidence of some degree over with the Russian czars of the Tartaria territory. But more importantly, we have now their writings. We don't know where they went, and they appear to be of the statue of height of 8 to 12 feet tall. Weird. Hey, Street Mom, how are you doing, dear? So I don't know how this is working, but we're going to hope that that is the case. Let's see if I can get this pulled up. All right, so we're going to cover a lot of books in this part, and I can see that okay, well, I'm just going to pretend like you're seeing this, because I'm getting a froze up picture of myself. I hope that's not the case. So we have the tablets. We're going to get into this. And I had someone write me yesterday, and I want to see if it'll actually work. Let's see. Yes. The Voyager books. I don't know. Yeah, I can see that Zoom is going to need. This is a book, by the way. If you try to look for it on Amazon, it is, I think it's now going for $500 for the paperback. Yeah, a little pricey. A lot of the books have really gone up. But in this book, and this is really frustrating, Zoom, your product really sucks. I just want to say it sucks because I am froze up across the board here. Well, this is just unacceptable. But we will push on, persevere, and not allow technology to rule us. So if you read the book, the Voyager books, it's about really an alternative reality that many of us are probably not really aware of. Inasmuch, and I can't take this anymore, it's kind of like doing Braille reading, but all the bumps are gone. So we just won't be doing that again. That just, yeah, and I can see it's doing the same thing on the replay. Well, that just really sucks. That's all right. We'll figure it out. So we know the modern day religions, and all of them, I don't believe that there is one that is right. I think they're all wrong. They have trapped the minds of humanity. Yeah, I was writing last night, and I'll share some of my thoughts as I was writing. Humanity has regressed the very beginning when we invented gods. Whether they were extraterrestrials, whether they were of a different dimension, we know that our ancestors were a hell of a lot smarter than we are, far more advanced. And the thing is that when you look at really outside of the modern day doctrine, that's politics, religion, social culture, it's all a trap. It's all contaminated. It's all designed to regress humans. Do you know that in the asinine state of Virginia, in the United States, they're no longer going to require homework. They're no longer going to require any grades. You see, we are on the decline. The species on a whole is on a decline. We've reached our pinnacle. Our pinnacle looks like for all, I don't know, it may have been over 1,000 years ago. There was apparently a catastrophe that has taken place that, well, something is wrong because we have evidences of a time. Let me show you something else. I think you're going to find this of interest. So explain to me, and we know Mud Fossil University, Gary over there, does a great job on this, but check some of these out. And then over here gets even stranger. Giant bears, giant elephant, an elephant that was apparently consumed in the recent cataclysm, jaguar. So, and I can improve upon what Gary's done over on, the Mud Fossil University. We've talked, I remember having a conversation with him a couple of years ago. It's there. And my whole point to what I was pointing out early, right prior to showing you the pictures, is that we're regressing so fast. It's frightening. I don't know who's doing this. I don't know who's a part of it. There is something, whatever it is, there's no doubt. Whatever happened to these people, I am not sure. As we get more into it, how many of you seen the movie Metropolis? If you ever get a chance, it's on YouTube. They actually have one that has no commercials in it. Go and watch that silent movie again. I went back and watched it yesterday. and I'm blown away. The Voyagers books, and again, if you want those, we're going to revisit them because they play a role in all of this. It's strange. So we say, well, where's the evidence? Where is the archaeological evidence? Well, archaeology is corrupted. It is not an honest science. It's heavily funded by corporations in the extent that they have an agenda. And all too sadly, the vast majority of archaeologists have been bought off. When they make discoveries, and they do, they are immediately quieted. In the 90s, the Smithsonian was taken to court by, the American Institute of Archaeologists and Archaeology, AIAA. In the case that the Supreme Court ruled against the Smithsonian, what was brought out was that for the last 200 years, the Smithsonian specifically have been involved in the purpose destruction of all giant human bones. By the admission in the court papers that were in this trial, the Smithsonian admitted to over 200,000 bones that they have destroyed, all of the giants. The giants ruled North America. Now, it appears that they very well may have been Tartarians. Definitely seems that they have that gene of gargantuanism. But the story is that we're not living in the actual time that we should be in. In the book, The Voyagers, it talks about a phenomenon called parallel interdimensional transition. And the hypothesis is this: as with time, there is anti-time, matter, antimatter. We don't understand, our science does not understand anti-time. Our science doesn't understand time. We guess at it. It's a phenomenon and a mystery we still cannot comprehend. We at best are hanging on by the thinnest of threads on the cognitive ability to maintain sanity. Many say that we're experiencing a transition. These transitional periods last for 26,629, whatever the grand cycle is. And Earth has an exact opposite we may be in anti-time. We think that we're in time, but no one knows for sure. But what we do know is that the Earth does swap places with the other Earth. And it is during these times of transition between the two time constructs, parallel interdimensional existence, that evidence of one particular time is left on the other planet, the other Earth. Now, it's also theorized that someone has screwed up time. We're experiencing it. We call it the Mandela Effect. But the fact of the matter is that we're becoming more dumbed down. They are purposely retarding us. And that is a word, is an accurate word. Retarding. Because we're becoming retards. We don't have the ability to make sane decisions anymore. Man, if you listen to my Steiger perspective last week, was based on the whole aspect of we're in a state of confusion. Many say that in this theory of these swapping out times, and it's happened to us more than once, that it has a profound effect. Now, you say, well, why hasn't there been recordings of it? Well, there have been, but I want you to think about this. They tell us that we're about to hit 8 billion people this year. In 2022, the world's population will hit 8 billion. Now, accordingly, apparently, there has never been a time when mankind has populated this planet to this degree. I don't know. Who can say that, right? Because, it's like, well, where are all the bones, man? Well, the bones, they go back into the dust. I don't know. But the point is, if you look at this Mandela Effect, the Twilight Zone, it's Rod Serling. Now, I know in my time, the time that I came out of, that's the one I was born in. This is not the same time that I was born in. Many of us that were born in the same period of time, this is not our right timeline. And the Tartarians are evidence of obviously a technology that is far superior, far more advanced than man can comprehend. We don't know all the science. We don't know all the religion. We don't know hardly anything. As a species, we know very little. Yet, we will sit here and we will murder another human being who disagrees with us. And something as stupid as politics, religion, science, that's how regressed we are. They did something. This is just my hypothesis as I continue to go down this road. And I apologize. I had a number of documents. I'll get this fixed, whatever it is with Zoom. That we seem to be under control. I don't know if it's a group. I don't know if it's a single consciousness. I don't know if it's an organization. I don't know if it's even of this world. If you believe that you're an actual spirit or you actually have a soul, then it would follow logically that you believe that you're going to have some sort of consciousness after you're dead. When you die, fall out, lights out. I have a very good friend who is a brain surgeon. She really is. But as she explains death, the whole concept of the make-believe soul, the make-believe spirit, from science. That's the problem. We think we have science now, but actually it's a pseudoscience. We don't know what science really is. Science today is in more of a state of confusion than it ever has been, but I digress. Now, as she says, what happens at clinical death is that your brain that has all these neurons, that it generates this electrical charge that is conducted by the blood, because the blood is primarily made up of salt, which is a crystalline structure which carries energy within the crystalline structure. And when it integrates with this thing, this organ called the brain, it's magic, baby. It's magic. Now, we think we've mapped it out. And so as you're dying, and your heart and your lungs are no longer able to push oxygen up into your brain, what happens to your consciousness is that if you're even knocked out, you're going to become aware. In fact, they call it the moment, the transition. You can't move, you can't breathe, you can't talk, but you're in your body, you're in that transition. Now, what she says is happening at that minute, that second, that the oxygen starts to become diminished within the brain, your synaptic pathways into the very tips begin to explode. They're firing off by the millions. That's the light you see, the light at the end of the tunnel. And as the last synaptic pathway consumes itself in the final millisecond of consciousness, it's over, baby. You don't remember because you don't exist. Now, that's just the medical point. I happen to believe that my beautiful spirit is going to be out of here. You know, who knows? I may take my body with me. It's just, it's one of those things. But that's the other science part of this. Then you have very clear evidence, as what we've read in the Voyager books. If you haven't read them, you need to read them. So who are these beings? These parallel interdimensional realities. As I was talking with Lynn last night, I said, you know, the problem is that the reason why I know all religions fail is that because all of their gods are dominated by the one God here, time. Every one of these gods of earth that man has made up are all dominated by time. So they can't be God, because you can't be supposedly the supreme and yet have time. Now, some would argue with that, but explain to me then, how come that you would have prophecy? Why would you have a God that says, well, this is going to happen in the future, but I've got to manipulate everything that happens so that happens? Come on. That's a con game. That's a 3-card Monte game that you've already lost your money. Might as well just pack it up because you're the patsy. People are going, what the hell? But think about it, folks. I read a story yesterday that they said, well, the DNA can prove that we all came from Adam and Eve. Now, you see, that is complete validation of this manipulation, because you and I know there's no way ever that if it just started by 2, something's real wrong there, baby. Something's real wrong. We know the story's made up, but now to pacify us, we're saying, well, now, you know, it's very possible that we all descended from just 2. Really? So what if there is an intelligence that its only purpose is to manipulate us for its purpose? Oh, we don't want to think about that. You know, we got UFOs in the sky and you've got alien abductions. I mean, we don't want to think about that. Well, again, all religions have trapped man's consciousness. You're shunned if you don't have a religion. You're looked at as odd if you don't have a belief. They want to label us as nihilists. You don't believe in anything. That's bullshit. It's impossible for a human not to believe in something. It's how we are rigged. And it is a rigged game. It's a rigged game from the very beginning. Because again, and like I said, I'm having to wing it on this one. There's a number of PDFs I have that I'll get this working correctly. That says that can't be true. It's impossible. So I don't know. But yet I've experienced, I've read y'all's emails that these, I mean, this is, if I had one book, I could say that was most impactful for me in 2021, it was really getting to know this species of beings, whoever they are, whatever they are. They're not tied to a religion. That's some man, there's some human being that's the only way they could interpret it. And from what I've seen, these are powerful creatures. I don't know where they originate from. If in fact it appears, and we'll get into the part of the Voyager book, because I love how the guy leads into this. He gives 10 cases and then conclusions. And the conclusion that it seems to point to, we're manipulated. Something has manipulated us for a long time. And the damn thing is wily. You know, when you think you've got it cornered, it's so slippery. I mean, you talk about a slick willy. I mean, boom, it goes right through your hands. I do believe that there are some of us who are close enough that we represent a true threat. Because if our consciousness ever connects to others, which it is, and as the diverse points of view begin to coalesce, because I think we're all on the same path, we're just on many different levels of the same path, I think we're rapidly getting to an answer. And again, it's just my point of view, but this is the first stop of we're going to have many different stops as we go. What's happening here? I mean, folks, we can't have dragons that are nearly 1,000 miles long and say, well, no, that doesn't really exist. I mean, it's just like here in South Dakota, you know, the Devil's Tower. They're trying to tell us that that's a natural rock formation. My ass, it's a root of a tree. There apparently was a time the Tartarians knew about it. Apparently they were here. Huge creatures. I mean, we call them dinosaurs, but that's the problem. There was not just the dinosaurs. We're finding the bones of them. And just recently, right up here in Wyoming, Lynn and I are going to go in the spring. They have found a new catch of dinosaur bones. So vast, what we were reading yesterday, it validates that there was a catastrophe. And if there was a catastrophe back then, and if there was a catastrophe even on a limited scale on planet Earth, let's say 100 years ago, maybe 200 years ago, and someone has rewritten history. You know, here's the problem. You know, have you heard about it's the Google project? And I'll think of the name here in a second. But this project that started about a decade ago it's being funded by a lot of very wealthy people. They want to digitize every single piece of writing, every single piece. Now, here's the problem with this. Being that 99.9% of the planet doesn't read these books, never even heard of these books, 99.9% of the population depend upon the news and the curriculum that is set by an agenda as to what history actually is. When you digitize every single writing of humanity, you are God. You can rewrite history. And they are. I'm 66, and I can testify they are rewriting history. History that I lived in. Many of us lived through. And we know that's not the case. But the thing about it is, you see, the boomers are the next one on the execution block. and they want us gone. We represent the last tangible essence that can counter the illusion. And again, if someone has messed time up, which there are those who say the looking glass device was brought here by an alien race to try to correct what something or some other race did, and manipulating us, and subsequently the fabric of space-time, there's time again. Can space exist without time? Can time exist without space? But anyway, that's why we're jumping. I'm on record back when Hillary lost the election. I experienced it. I did a video on it. There was a time shift. It was the craziest thing. And it's kind of like that Star Trek: The Next Generation. You know, Whoopi Goldberg played a race of beings that her species were able to be cognitive of multiple parallel timelines, which is really weird. Love to do that. I think it would drive us crazy. I don't think we have the cranial capacity to do that, maybe only in the spirit. But in any case, could it be that that's what we're seeing here? I found it interesting as well, is that the United States government, through the Federal Aviation Administration, made the request to AT&T and Verizon not to throw the switch on Wednesday. And because they're now going, this might interfere with, some key parts of radio transmissions. No, AT&T and Verizon said, screw you. We're going to inflict whatever they're about to do. So what do you think? And it's this 5G technology, which I say it's 6 or 7. Is this part of this construct? Did the Tartarians know? Were they victims of this? Because if they apparently ruled as long as they did, the history that we keep reading, it's like, I don't know. But it's very obvious they have. And if we can meet and have a coherent, cohesive, cognitive discussion where we can begin to talk about these hypotheses that 100 years ago, who knows, it would have been preposterous. I don't know. It's very obvious that they were smarter than us. Maybe they figured something out. I don't know. But I know this is that if we can come together and start saying, now, wait a minute, what if the possibility is that we're all living in a altered universe where the timelines are all wrong, events are becoming more screwed up, and the question is this intensifying or is this abating? I'm of the camp thinking that this is increasing. I mean, you've got NFL players freaking out. We saw something yesterday. It was just mind-blowing. A person purposely pulled out in oncoming traffic. And the girl, she looked to be in her 20s, was laughing about it when she was almost causing wrecks. That ain't normal. So, and these clues are all in the past. I mean, by the way, this picture, if you can see that, that's St. Louis. Now, I can tell you that there were no Capitol buildings that were 60 feet tall. How they lit this, again, the more I read into this, the more I went, okay, time out. You tell me that you built these buildings all around the world in less than 2 years, massive amounts of material that in some cases is not located near any of these construction sites. How'd they get the quarry stone? How'd they get the metal? What steel manufacturer that was advanced enough for understanding metallurgy? Where'd they get the labor? Why don't we have any pictures of actual construction? And then these buildings were massive in the inside. One building took over 120,000 pieces of glass. Who did this? And then again, why did they tear all these buildings down? Very few of them exist. They burned them. And then what was left, they buried. And we still can't figure out, for instance, in the San Diego World Exposition, they said that over 8 million people visited that exposition. The problem is, if you go back into the I think this was about 1920, or maybe, excuse me, a little bit earlier, but prior to that, 8 million people didn't even live in the state of California. So where did all these people come from? Some of them were profitable, others were not. I mean, the detailed, they had in the one in London, they had the Byzantine gardens, they had the Sumerian gardens, they had just these mind-blowing exhibits. And I'm thinking to myself, why didn't I ever read about this? They said that they had individuals who went in and purposely drew sketches, and I have the book I'm ordering, and then began to write commentary because they felt that if they didn't, future generations would never know, and they were right. And now we don't care. Oh, this is interesting. Like I said, I'll get the Zoom thing fixed one way or the other and share these documents. And if you, I know a lot of you collect these documents, these are ones you're going to have, because the Tartarians, wow, they were what I've read so far. And it's amazing because I think I've read about these people for the longest time. I just didn't know who and what they were. Where'd they go? But they were snuffed out purposely. And it does appear that they were the pinnacle of this version of this cycle. We can't duplicate what they built. Certainly can't do it. How do you build a freaking, let me just tell you one, give you just a point, because this is what gets me. And give me 1 second here. These were huge buildings. The Nashville Parthenon. So for instance, the London Crystal Palace, the dome alone was 100 feet in diameter, 210 feet tall. That's 21 stories, folks. It's 21 stories. The buildings, the floor space covered 1,012 meters. So if I do my math and I go 39, all right, into that would be almost about 370,000 square feet. And they had him in Louisville, Kentucky. I'm running out of time, but the story of Louisville, Kentucky makes no sense. The official U.S. government record makes no sense. The way that it unfolded makes no sense. Maybe it was E.T. I don't know. Maybe it was Paul. Who knows? All right, folks. Thank you. This has been fun. It's just wild stuff. And here I am along the journey. And, you're completely straight, head clear, focused. And you read this stuff and it's like having a flashback. I mean, this stuff is weirder than any trip I took from my couch. This is more bizarre. I couldn't even fathom this stuff. I mean, I enjoyed seeing the paisleys and the undulations and the different, you're in a different place physically, but yeah, anyway, duck, squirrel. Oh, that is just funny as all get out. Let's see. Google years said we went from horse and buggy to massive cities in a couple of decades. Yeah, very weird. Yeah. And then ask yourself, where the freak did the material come from? Where did the labor come from? These were skilled craftsmen. I mean, you ought to see some of the ordination that they did on this. I mean, this is advanced stuff. Hey, Martin and Hattie. Thank you, Martin, Heidi. Yeah, I looked into it a couple of years, but something says that now is the time to start re-looking into it. And I don't know. Something ain't right here. It's like looking at that picture. They say, if you're not a robot, which one of these pictures are of stairs? And you're going, what are stairs? Yeah. All right, you beautiful people. Thank you. Yeah, thank you, Ruth Ann. I did wing it. But that's just what you have to do, It's, we have fun with it. Lucky Stone, good to see you, brother. And I speak love and peace across the world as well. That's what we're doing. Mike Matthews says, good trip. It was, far out one too. We all came right back down on the ground. All right, folks. Perhaps they called the gin. Yeah. Mike Solomon did. Deborah, very intuitive, my dear. And I think we have to really kind of pull all of this together, mix it into the pot and see what kind of sauce we come up with. Delicious. All right, folks, see you tomorrow with Miss Trina. Thank you. We're going to have fun this year. We're going to have fun. All right. And it is a beautiful day, Gaia. So beautiful day, grand day to all of us. And